All right, you're looking at a hot one, the Gigabyte EX58 Extreme motherboard for the Core i7s. Finally, an exciting product. I'm very excited to have my hands on this one. This is a very cool board. When you think about overclocking and world records and extreme systems, you think of a couple brands, and on the top of that list is definitely Gigabyte. They designed some of the most extreme boards, and for the most demanding enthusiasts, this board is actually not for everybody. If you're not really into overclocking, you're not going to need this board. Gigabyte does make some lower end models, but if you are one of those guys, one of those ridiculous people that just loves to overclock everything and needs those BIOSes that have support for ridiculous frequencies and ridiculous voltages, because you are going to be using LN2 or you're going to set up your cascade on here, even a big water cooling loop, this has a lot of great features that you're going to like a bunch. The hybrid pipe 2 design is fantastic. The actual cooling on this board is one of the nicest I've ever seen. I don't know if you can kind of come in over here. Right, look at that heat pipe right there. It's hard to see it in real life. On video. You got to see it in real life. It is amazing. The design through here is all internal. Of course, it is liquid cooling as well as air cooling. And if you want to add more cooling, they even give you this. Check that out. This is a huge cooler for your North Bridge for air cooling. If you do want to air cool, you can use this. It'll take up one of the slots. The only bad part is that it will kill your PCI Express X1 slot that's right over here. But pretty much it's just going to fit just like that and go right out the back of your computer. It's going to take up one of the expansion ports, and you're going to kill your PCI Express X4 slot, but you may maintain PCI Express X1 on the other side. You might lose both. Either way, you don't have to use it. It's only if you're not going to be using liquid, but you can use liquid and this in combination to keep your North Bridge extremely cool. That's a very cool feature. Also, the board itself, Ultra Durable 2. That's actually Ultra Durable 3. I forgot this is X58. Their PCB is like high end. I mean, seriously, it's very thick, very strong. It has 2 ounces of copper in there for the ground and power layers. 2 ounces of copper. That's double what they've done before. That's going to increase your overclocking by reducing temperatures, by giving you a more stable voltage. Also, the impedance on the board, on the PCB, is going to be dropped by 50%. Yes, impedance is bad. Impedance is even worse, especially when you're overclocking. Boy, semantics and terminology, I'm just not good at it. What else do you get? You get dual BIOS chips for when you go way too far. So if you need that, you have 2 BIOS chips. I don't know if you can see them right there. There's 2 of them right there just sitting there. If you go too far, you got a backup. You get very fine voltage controls in the BIOS. Excellent BIOS on this board. Very small steppings, as small as 0.002. Extremely low steppings, so you can get very precise on your overclock. You get amazing hardware that I'm killing over. You also get that amazing hardware. Sorry, back to the amazing hardware. You get ferrite core chokes, you get lower RDSON MOSFETs, Japanese-made capacitors that are all solid state. Everything is really nice on the board. All the cooling, pretty much all the stuff that you can physically see and touch on the board is exceptional. It looks really good. Dual gigabit LAN, tons of PCI Express 2.0 slots for SLI or Crossfire. Great North Bridge cooling and South Bridge cooling with water, or you can use the hybrid pipe system. Hybrid silent pipe 2 is what they call it. So very impressive. Now, this is obviously a Core i7 board, so the 920s, 940s, 965s, 4.6 and 6.4 gigatransfers per second. Core i7 has really been a huge step up for everybody as far as processors goes and platforms go. Triple channel memory support doubles the bandwidth of double channel memory, so 50% more. It's a big deal. Also, the QPI is replacing the front side bus. That's a huge deal too. That's literally twice as much bandwidth between the chipset and the processor as a 1600 megahertz front side bus, which is the fastest that was available in the Core 2 line and was a very expensive $1,500 processor, the QX9770. Imagine that. It's twice as fast bandwidth between the North Bridge and the CPU, and now you don't have to transfer as much information anyway because the memory controller is built into the chip. Just like an AMD has it on the actual die of the processor. It's the same thing with Core i7, so it will support up to 24 gigabytes. 24 gigabytes of DDR3 triple channel memory. It'll do 800, 1066, 1333, 1600, 1800, and 2100 and up. With overclocking. Again, 1.65 volts is kind of where you want to max out your VDIM, but many people are going way above that without too many detrimental effects. Supposedly it's something more of a long term, so we'll be testing that long term to see if it does detriment the lifespan of your processor, your motherboard, or your memory running anything above 1.65, like 1.7 or 1.8. EX58. Some people are getting some really, really nice performance from their memory in triple channel configurations. They're getting great scores and on their memory benchmarks, and it really does bring a lot to the table, a lot quicker response from everything. Now, another thing you're going to notice that has changed, you're going to comparing it to other ultra high-end boards, is that there is no discrete audio, but you actually have excellent 7.1 channel HD audio through here, 106 decibel signal to noise ratio. So that's actually completely comparable to discrete audio. You actually might want to think twice about getting a discrete audio and spending your money elsewhere, because this audio is really that good. Another thing you're going to notice is you get a lot of USB connectivity. Look at this over here. You get 4 USB 2.0s right here, and you get another 4 here. So that's 8 on the back panel alone, plus another 2 headers on the inside is another 4, for a total of 12 USB 2.0 connections. Above, obviously, again, is the dual gigabit LAN, your HD audio, and if you move right there, that's a nice little overclocking feature, your clear CMOS button. In case you overclock too far, you can go ahead and reset your BIOS to the original settings, and that let you start from scratch and boot your system. Just be careful. The placement of this is a little bit scary. If you're going to go to plug in a USB 2.0, you might push the button and accidentally kill your overclock that you worked so hard to get perfect and super efficient and minimize your voltages, and you tightened your latencies, and everything is trim and proper, and it's quick to ruin. So be very careful, but it's still an excellent tool for overclocking, and I'd rather it be there than not be there. You also get a FireWire out here. You have an additional two that are available via a header on the inside, and they also give you a back panel connector that I'll show you now. You have SPDIF in both the optical digital and the analog coaxial right there, and then you have the PS2s for your legacy keyboard and mouse. Speaking of legacy, if you want to know, does this have an IDE connector? It does not. Actually, I'm sorry, it does. Poop. There's one there, and there's a floppy. Completely pointless. Whatever. I guess they like it. And you know what's here? Here's another cool thing that I liked about this board. Just like the other high premium boards for X58, they have a nice back panel cooler that's going to keep everything cool, and as well as gives you a little more torque for tightening down your CPU cooler. Make sure there's no flex in your board or putting undue stress on the board. It's not necessary. You can just have one of these plates on the back, and that's going to help out a lot. This thing is awesome. I love this motherboard. Let me show you what's in the box. Let's see here. Stuff you're never going to use. Actually, you know what? This is pretty cool. Let me show you this, because this is I found this to be very, very interesting. Okay, so everyone knows that eSATA is awesome. eSATA gives you 3 gigabit per second, external hard drives and stuff like that. But what if you have a hard drive, but it's not an enclosure, and you don't want to open your case and plug it into a SATA port and run the wires? You might have cable management all nice. You kind of want to have like one of those docking stations, but you don't want to pay for it. This is a really cool thing that Gigabyte has given you. This is a 4-pin Molex connector, and they give you this bracket on the back. Look at this bracket. This is really cool. You get this bracket, and it has a 4-pin Molex connector right there that you connect on the inside of the case. And then from there, you can plug this right here, and this will go to a SATA power connector. So outside of the case, you can power up a SATA drive, and then you get this really cool SATA to eSATA cable. So it's not really an eSATA. On one end is eSATA, and on the other end is just regular SATA. So this will go into the hard drive, and this will go into the eSATA port right there. And that lets you pretty much hook up an old SATA drive that you might not really want to install. You might want to get some stuff off of it, or make an emergency backup to send somewhere else in case there's a fire at your house. Whatever reason, but it's actually quite useful. So that's an interesting thing they give you in the box. You also get really cool orange cables. Awesome, Gigabyte. Very nice. Some 90 degrees. Some of the regular ones you have 2 and 2. So that's very, very nice that they included them, and it's cool that they're orange. I think that's a cool color. You get this is IDE or floppy? This is IDE cable. So in case you're old school, you want to have one of those around, you get that included in the box. You also get a very nice input-output shield, nicely painted and labeled, which is also always very nice. Floppy cable, and also very nice. You get your SLI, triple SLI bracket, and you get your Crossfire. So very nice to have both of these included in the box. All this is great, great stuff. This is an excellent, excellent motherboard. Now, the only thing I'll tell you is that I don't really recommend it for the novice overclocker. The BIOS is insanely detailed, insanely complicated. You have all these features that you can tweak, and if you just want to get high-end performance, you're going to do a 4 gigahertz overclock. You don't need to get the Extreme X58. You can get an X58 that's not Extreme. They have the DU6. This is top-notch stuff. This is for the really high-end guys. So again, the X58 Extreme. It's actually the GA EX58 Extreme from Gigabyte. Insane motherboard. Go out and buy it if you're a hardcore. If you have any questions on it, email me. I'll see you guys next time. For more information on the Gigabyte EX58 Extreme motherboard for Core i7 processors, type in G452-2718 into the search engines of any of these major retailers. For Computer TV, I'm Albert.